Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today, Richa Gautam, a writer who has written for PGurus and she's also been on our video hangouts, joins me to talk about the Seattle Council resolution and the aftermath and what lies ahead. So let's welcome Richa ji. Richa ji, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Namaste, Shriji. Long time. I'm really doing good. Thank you for hosting me today.
My pleasure, Richa ji. Yesterday, both of us probably kind of watched it like 9 a.m. my time, which is probably 10 a.m. your time, and all the way to the end when the resolution was voted upon. One thing that surprised me, at least, I don't know about you, was the number of people who were for this caste discrimination, and it clearly showed that they were all, they are reading from rehearsed scripts, which probably is okay. Most people do that. But what the problem was, to me at least, was that none of them had a quantifiable instance of something where they were discriminated for their caste. Not a single one. And yet the council went ahead and voted for it. This is how I perceived it. I could be wrong, but what did you see, and how do you see this playing ahead?
Absolutely, Shriji. I think you summarized it so well. There has not been a single recorded case of caste discrimination, either in Seattle or, most of the cities or universities. I remember when we were fighting the Santa Clara Human Rights Commission, the Alphabet Workers Union, which incidentally is also one of the supporting, unions for this caste resolution in Seattle, when he was asked on the spot during a live meeting whether there was any instance in Google of where there was caste discrimination, he said, no, we've not had any. I've not heard of any. So basically, they are all supporting this without any real, quantifiable reason. And also, as the surveys have pointed in the direction that there is absolute diluted caste identity in the United States. Yet they don't refer to that recent survey by Carnegie Endowment, but they refer to the ancient 7 years ago data collected by Equality Labs, which we all know is unscientific. So
It's flawed. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's a flawed report. We have told so many faults there, and many of the speakers did say that, and yet somehow the council saw it in their wisdom to go ahead and still vote yes. What was the reason, you think? Was it just the sheer numbers, or am I missing something?
So definitely not the numbers, because what I can see is that it was pre-decided. We have been talking to them for the past 3-4 weeks since we found out that this resolution will be on the table, or this ordinance will be on the table. And during the meetings in the past also, we saw that our voices were canceled out. Out of 45, only 3 of our speakers were allowed to speak during a public meeting on the 14th of February. And there's a lot of push, by a sort of, it's not a cabal, but it's a political machinery that is pushing this. And I remember it takes me back to CAA, anti-CAA resolutions, which was also a lot of grandstanding, because obviously a city council had no standing to talk about India, but they were. And not only that, when I spoke to Chicago alders and alders in different cities, they were clueless, obviously, and they actually told me that please go and talk to Kshama Sawant. So the one thing that I know is that there is a bigger machinery behind Kshama Sawant, and people seem to say that, she's being canceled out. There was a recall against her, and that is why this is her last hurrah. But I don't think so. I think that she's actually graduating into official troublemaker position, because she's going to become sort of a union leader, and a national union leader with Workers Strike Back. And so it is sort of the things that we have seen in India for a long time, what I call as urban Naxals. So this is something that America needs to watch out for. Even though we fight it as Indian Americans or Hindu Americans, we have to see that there is a bigger global picture in the United States that needs to be aware that Indian Americans are the bulwark of all the industry and good things that are happening in the United States. It could be space research, NASA, it could be tech big tech. It could be financial sector. We see everywhere, even small business. So we power the Indian economy, the American economy, and this is a hit job, not just on us, but on the American economy.
Kshama Sawant, you think she's going to be going at a national stage, lead some workers' union or something like that? But she barely escaped being, recalled. And I think her term ends in the city council. Either it has already ended or it is going to end soon. So really, there is no future for her. I mean, is this like a breath of life for her to try and show this on her resume, brownie point, saying that, okay, I got this thing? Also, more importantly, did you try to reach out to her? Did she talk to you?
So we have obviously reached out to all the city council councillors. I think eventually we decided we've tweeted with her name. We have reached out to her on all en masse to all the city councillors. So I don't think there is any chance that we are going to get any response. Kona has done a great job with grassroots advocacy in in Seattle. 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙤, I think you interviewed her. It was such a good
Yes,
vibe
yes,
in that
yes.
video. And they were hooting and really like ragging our people, because obviously, like you said, they were in larger numbers. The one thing that the other side does better is campaigning with these world peace sort of slogans in the campuses. And what we are seeing actually is, while the parents understand the ground reality, given that they have lived in the India, or they have understood the bigger picture, they understand that this is a hit job on us. But the students, even the Hindu Americans, even the Indian Americans, they are buying this bullshit, this BS. Sorry for that. But they are buying this, and there are cases and instances where the parents are fighting with us and the children are on the other side with equality labs. So this is a big problem for us. We have two issues that we really need to address. I think our organizations are doing a fantastic job with legal cases that HAF is filing. Kona is doing grassroots. There's groups like Hindu Action in Washington DC. But what we really need at this time is maybe an academic framework in which we define ourselves, because if we don't define ourselves, the others are going to define us. So as Hindu Americans, as Indian Americans, we need to find a better way to define ourselves than, they are about caste and, Brahminical, patriarchy, these newfound terms, which are very colonial terms. So this is sort of a recolonization of us as Indians. These are people, first of all, going back to those testimonials at the public hearing, these are peoples who have taken advantage of the Indian reservation affirmative action system and been able to come to the United States. Because if you look at what they call the Dalit class in Pakistan, they are languishing in feudal systems and as
Yes,
almost like slaves.
yes,
That's
yes.
where the real slavery exists. India has obviously put, Draupadi Murmu in the presidential position. It has brought all our people to, these people who have come to the United States have now become privileged. So they are not just caste. This whole idea of caste privilege is, we should counter that, and in a legal way, in some way, because definitely this is ethnic profiling, and also it's unreal and untrue. That I do see that.
Well, that it's what it is, and very shrill voices. I thought many dramatic voices, very shrill voices. Some debaters at high school who are using those skills to parlay the outrage that they felt of being discriminated. Yet, not one of them showed a single real example where they could say, "Here is my complaint. Here is what got acted upon, and this is what was the result." I mean, that is the QED, quod erat demonstrandum, right? You show the thing, you hypothesize, you show the work, and then you show the conclusion. Without that, just making these innuendos, especially led by a person who has not even set foot on India. Did you know that? I'm told that 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪𝙥𝙤 has never gone to India.
Well, that puts her in good company with Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote the book Caste is the Origin of Our Discontent. So I think you really nailed it, because these are two people who have not been to India, and they are the experts on caste at this time in the United States. So I think this sort of really summarizes the entire situation that we are facing. I think that's why the word woke is really a good word, because I think there is no real dictionary, word at this time which describes this sort of bizarreness that we are dealing with. We wouldn't even be talking about it. When the Ecology Lab survey first came out, we just brushed it aside. We were like, oh God, this is so silly. We have better things to do. But then we realized how pernicious and, inimical it is getting to us, because it's getting into policy, it's going on media, it's destroying our reputation in general. One of the things I want to point out, and it's an experience that I've had, 6 years ago, I was actually added to an interfaith dialogue where largely there were Sikhs and some Muslims and Christians and of course Hindus. And we were discussing a lot of this issue. And of course, as soon as you're a Hindu, they talk about caste, Brahminical patriarchy and caste. So I, at that time, had started to do a lot of research to understand this caste trope that is hurled on us. And what I found that a lot of the Sikhs there were Khalistanis, by the way, and a lot of them were Sikh chairs in Toronto, in California, in Australia, in Europe. There are Sikh chairs that have been set up who are doing a lot of studies on these sort of issues. And so there is an academic framework that is being developed besides the Indology by our own people, like our own Indian Americans, to define us and to define caste as very Hindu. So a lot of, as people who spoke there were also Sikhs who spoke about caste discrimination, etc. So we are just seeing this whole cabal that is coming together. I think it's a well-known thing that it's, even though we used to think it's all a Christian missionary thing, and I think those are fringe elements. What we are seeing is that it's largely driven by a left-to-Islamist alliance, which also drives the progressive left, which also drives this hit job on us.
Well, we have our work cut out, haven't we? And we will be up to the task, and we are going to win. We are going to. This is the truth, for God's sake. I mean, what you came to the United States because you saw that here was a society that rewards merit, nothing else. We left all our other baggage behind at home, and they want to somehow drag you back into that mess. And just because they have a narrative that seems to be right for them or seems to be of help to them, I'm just flabbergasted is one word, but I think we are up to it, and we are going to show them a lot more people who can actually think this thing through, who as an intellectual have to get in and start taking them on in all these councils and interfaith groups that you mentioned. You have to have representation there, and people who are calm with data and say that no, what you're saying is incorrect, here is the proof, and you go with the proof, and then you show them, you read them, and that's how you're going to counter it. Because once you show exact proof that this is what they're saying is not true, then they have no leg to stand on. Somebody there is going to say, wait a minute, this guy has brought you proof, what more do you want, right? So I think that is one way to look at this. Thank you so much, Richa ji, and we will wait and see how things play out. I'd like to have you come back maybe in a 4-6 weeks time again to revisit this and see how things develop, because I'm told 8 other city councils are readying the same thing. You can be sure it'll be a copy-paste job, search and replace the name of the council, and then they'll start doing the same thing. They have done this thing in the anti-CAA, so it's no surprise. But the point, I think, is that there could be bigger ramifications for Seattle as a city because of this. And let's see how this plays out. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Namaste.